I feel like you and I have talked about this. We maybe even talked about it on this podcast before, but I still think that we don't go back and talk about this enough, which is this Patrick Mahomes thing. How do we not see this coming sooner, right? Like, he sat for 1 year and was the best, other than maybe Dan Marino, like first-year starting quarterback that we had ever seen off the rip. None of us thought this was going to be the thing, right? None of us thought that this is the direction that it was going to go in. I mean, Mitch Trubisky went before him, for goodness sake. Did we miss something? Is this Cliff's fault? What in the world?
Part of it is context. You lost him at Texas Tech, where I think people had a hard time seeing that he was marginally more impressive and visually more impressive than any of those system quarterbacks that they had. He was making plays. I've gone back and watched all of his starts from his first year at Texas Tech. I did that for an article last year. And when he was in his first year at Texas Tech, he is still making the kind of plays where he's opening up space downfield, not just with his eyes, but with subtle movements in the pocket. And then once he gets out of the pocket, obviously in college, there's just guys wide open, like the lane's completely there. He's making improvisational throws. He's changing his launch angle. It's all there from the start. And I just think there is something in him that got confused for the system there, because everyone at Texas Tech will throw for 3,000, 4,000 yards with ease. The way that he did it was in a very Mahomesian way, where yes, he was on script a lot of the time, but also a lot of the time he's making his own plays. You know, I feel like people took the wrong lesson from that Oklahoma Texas Tech game where he had 700 yards passing and 7 or 8 TDs by himself. He had, 800 or 700 yards of offense from scrimmage by himself. And they were paying attention to Baker Mayfield. And in fact, like, the guy who was the system QB in that case more than anybody was Baker. And also, I will say this. I think, and I've talked about this with a number of people in draft prep when it comes to Caleb Williams, I don't think Lincoln Riley is doing his quarterbacks a lot of favors in preparing them at all for the NFL. That's not his job, but it's something that other quarterback coaches and offensive coordinators at least do a little bit of along the way to making them successful college quarterbacks. I don't think Lincoln Riley's been doing as much of that. And I think that Cliff, for all of the shit that we give him as somebody who is a college coach and does not care about defense, I think he did a slightly better job of taking not the finished product that was Mahomes, but the very, very good product and making it slightly to at least a bit better than he was just coming out of high school and preparing for the draft. So, like, I think he did an okay job there. Let's award him, like, moderate credit for that. But that dude is that dude. Like, you have called him Jordan, and I think that is more than fair, because regardless of whatever his longevity is going to be for this period, he's as dominant as anyone has ever been in the history of the sport. We just missed him because of where he was and because the product was, yes, slightly unconventional.
I am enjoying people come around to this Jordan thing, by the way. Like, I don't know why it seems so crazy to him when I said it in the first place. I thought I made a very reasonable take for what this is, but now people are looking at this and just be like, oh, no, my bad. This looks a lot like Jordan.
It looks a lot like Jordan because he does things and then that no one else can do, and then evolves. If you've seen his, I had a very entertaining 49ers fan in my mentions talk about how, well, his yards per completions come down. Yeah, that's because they know he could throw the ball over the moon. You got professionals out there who are going to pick him up and pick his receivers up and make sure they don't just run a completely unbothered go route. Right? These are good people. They are professionals. They can defend that. What they can't defend is all the space that you open up underneath by simply being too good at your job to counter. And that's the thing that he's managed to do. When they pull back in a cover 2 shell, Mahomes struggled for what, 3-4 games? 3-4 games until he goes, oh, no, I got that. I got it. We're just going to run mesh and shell. Mesh, shell, audible. We're going to run into it. I'll check to that audible. That's the other thing. He has made guys so much better simply by making good decisions on the field. And yes, doing some of that boring game manager stuff that nobody else does. Nobody else does it that well. So if you want your best game manager, that's Patrick Mahomes. If you want your best scrambler and your most selective scrambler, it's Patrick Mahomes, even though he does look, I believe it was Dominic Foxworth who shared this with me. He looks like a child running in a shoe store, trying out new shoes every time he takes off, which I think is the appropriate description. He's the most selective and efficient scrambler in the league. If you want that, not the most spectacular, but the most selective and efficient. He's the best underneath thrower. He's the best improv guy. He wins at all the categories. You remember when Jordan was putting up Defensive Player of the Year kind of performances, in addition to getting the scoring title and the MVP. That's what you're looking at here. The older Mahomes is going to be really intriguing to me because he'll lose a step. He won't be able to scramble quite like he used to, but I still think he's going to become an even more efficient and productive passer because, and this is the thing he does better than anything else right now, anything else, he steals 5. He steals 5. He's so good at putting you in second and 5. Ain't pretty. Might have been disappointing. A lot of times they'll load up for that big, you saw this on the last drive, loaded up for a huge play action. You're like, oh, here it comes. Here comes the bomb. Pulled it down, checked it for like 3. I think to Pacheco, checked it for 3. And that was fine. We're in 2nd and 7. Guess what you still have to worry about? Everything. As a defense, you still have to worry about, and I think the next play after that, by the way, they go to the defense gets impatient because they can't stop him from nibbling at him. So they blitz him. And that's when Romo goes, oh, they shouldn't have done that. I want you to think about how good he is that he made the commentator, a professional quarterback of renown of his own right, look at San Francisco blitzing, calling a really good cover 0 blitz, and hearing Romo go, oh no, they shouldn't have done that. Have you ever heard of a football player in an 11-on-11 situation where the announcer basically treated them like, oh, they stuck their hand in the lion cage? Too bad. Too bad.
Dude, when I was in Vegas, I sat for an interview when I was prostituting myself on Radio Row. I sat down with, like I said, telling people about this, man. Every time I sat down for an interview on Radio Row, they're like, what you doing? I was out here prostituting myself, just walk around, hoping to get shows. Like, hey, daddy, you got 10 minutes? You can watch if you want, right? Like, that's basically what I was doing. And so I sat down with the Raiders guys, and I was like, I forget what came up, but they brought up Mahomes, and it really hadn't dawned on me what it's got to be like if you root for one of them other teams in that division, and you got to see that twice.
Yeah, twice every year. Nightmares. Your job sucks. Your job sucks. You got 2 losses right there. And at the very least, even if you win, that's not going to be the kind of win that makes you feel good. You're going to be like, oh man, I dodged the blade. That's it. And what counter are you going to make? You're going to blitz him? He's awesome against the blitz. You're going to fall back in coverage. He'll pick you apart with nobody, with, as you said, the Featherstones of the world, with dudes who have hands like dinner plates. All right. Like with guys who are out there like 4 paws playing like they have hooves for hands. And that still worked. You threw the Super Bowl winning touchdown to a guy you'd already gotten rid of and had to pull off the Jets. And you still found a way to get him open against a really good defense in the most important situation in football. And you won by
the way, a guy who also didn't know if the game was over.
Didn't know. You know who knew it was over? Pat. That's it. This is proof that you could just delegate everything to Pat. That's fine. I'm convinced, like, if you were going to go, okay, who will call plays in the huddle? Like, who could you just, like, how many quarterbacks in the league do you think if we rolled up and we did the full Kenny Stabler thing where you line up at the line of scrimmage and go, I need this formation, this personnel, and let's go? How many guys do you think could actually do that in the league? He's one. I know, like, I would feel totally comfortable, especially because he's already done that. He goes back in the Super Bowl win, the prior Super Bowl win against the 49ers, I believe, when they call WASP, which is that little go, the little sort of in cut and go to Tyreek Hill. He's the one who called. He went back to the huddle the play before. He goes back to the sideline. Andy Reid goes, WASP, you want to call WASP? Let's go. He called it. I feel totally comfortable doing that. I do not know what you do with him other than hope, time, and injury, hope up to him if you're an opponent. Catch up to him.
Everything that you try to find a way to check a box, like we haven't found the weakness. We've been looking for this weakness. We've tried to figure out what it is. He's the rare guy who isn't as good in play action as he is out of play action, but only because he's just so damn good when it comes down to running play action. We've looked for every single thing you could possibly have. They threw him out there without nobody to throw to and just a really good defense. Okay, cool. He went ahead. He figured out how you make that happen. Like, if you are the guys whose job it is to go cook something up every year, like, okay, we're going to figure out what the thing is that we're going to do with Pat this year. What you got, man? What you got? What you got that hasn't already been tried? What do you have? Prize Picks is the most fun you can have by winning up to 25 times your money. And with the football season over, you can still win money with basketball and hockey. You just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. You can pick combo projections across multiple sports from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. Prize Picks is really simple to play. You can make your picks and submit your entry in less than 60 seconds. So make sure you go to prizepicks.com/Bomani and use code Bomani for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/Bomani. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.